When the walls come tumbling down, I choose joy, I choose joy. When the world stops spinning around, I choose joy, I choose joy. When my heart won't seem to move, and you know my music's lost its groove, then I got too much to prove. I choose joy, I choose joy. When hate is all I see, I choose joy, I choose joy. When fear won't let me be, I choose joy, I choose joy. When betrayal and lies hide the light from my eyes, I look up to the skies and I choose joy, I choose joy. A joy, 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 I choose joy. A moment right here, I choose joy, I choose joy. For the ones I hold so dear, I choose joy, I choose joy. To be who I must be, for the light to shine in me, for everybody to see, I choose joy, I choose joy. A joy, 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 I choose joy. Joy, 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 I choose joy. I find a stable ground where peace and hope abound. I hear a sweeter sound, the trains have come unbound. Love is all around when I choose joy. In this moment right here, I choose joy, I choose joy. For the ones I hold so dear, I choose joy, I choose joy. To be who I must be, for the light to shine in me, for everybody to be free, I choose joy, I choose joy. For everybody to see, I choose joy, I choose joy.
Whoa, whoa, that filled the room. That was wonderful. Thank you so much. Today I want to talk about forgiveness. Forgiveness as a way of life. I really enjoyed Rabbi Olivier's explanation of forgiveness during the Jewish High Holy Days. It was beautiful, profound, lovely. And I want to share for me, it is a day-to-day moment to moment, hour to hour practice. So I want to talk a little bit about my look at joy, and not joy. I've got the joy down in my heart, let's get to joy, but let's talk about forgiveness first. I want to provide my definition of forgiveness, what it does for me. Forgiveness is a tool that helps me facilitate within myself more harmony. It's a catalyst for harmony. Harmony is the natural state or order of things until human beings get involved. Judge Thomas Troward said, "Order is the first law of the universe, and out of order comes balance and then harmony and beauty." And to have a beautiful life, it needs to be harmonious. So I want to look at the definitions of that, because it's interesting that I don't know how many years ago, many years ago, when I was sitting and it just came to me what my mission was in life. Not my purpose, but my mission in life. My mission in life is to facilitate harmony on earth, to be a catalyst to be a catalyst for harmony. Because for me, harmony is similar to heaven. For us to have a heavenly experience, we must have a harmonious experience. When I looked at world conditions, I could see that everything would balance itself out if there was more innate harmony, organic harmony. We wouldn't have haves and have-nots if the economy was in harmony, if things were in flow. We wouldn't have the imbalance on the earth if we were in harmony with the earth. Instead of wanting people to be nice, which is what we call peace, if people had a harmonious relationship, we wouldn't need to be nice. We would be harmonious with each other. So I really am drawn to that, and still trying to figure out how to do it. And yet I know that the way that I must start is with myself. So I want to define harmony. And besides the musical, the first thing that comes up when you look for harmony, it says it's the combination of simultaneous music notes in a chord. Who knows? I have the foggiest idea what that means, so we'll move on. Harmony also means a pleasing arrangement. Okay, harmony means it sounds good. Good. So it also means a pleasing arrangement, congruence, agreement, accord, tranquility, unity. Unity, an aspect of God. Oneness, an aspect of God. So I want to look at forgiveness today at 3 levels: the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual. Because we are mental beings. Science of mind is a mental practice. Let's just start with what we know, which is how we think. Because if you're in this philosophy for very long, you've looked at how you think and how other people think, and then you try to change how you think to figure out how you think, and then try to make other people think their same way. So let's start with mental understanding, or the intellectual concept of it. We lose our sense of harmony and tranquility and unity when we encounter one thing. And this I get from Rabbi Rami Shapiro. He's got some great books. Who's read him? He's funny. He's a funny, never mind. Anyway, he says that we all move out of harmony. We move into agitation when we encounter conflict. So this is not necessarily conflict like on the battlefield, except it's in our own battlefield. Conflict is simply, you know how things should turn out, but they didn't. You know how things should be, but they aren't. You had a plan and it didn't turn out. Thus, conflict. It should be the way it should be, and it's not. And we get conflicted. The way to solve that is to move into a greater sense of harmony. The process is forgiveness. Now, this is true from the very smallest issue to the very biggest issue. People should be nice to each other. People shouldn't cut you off in traffic. People should be kind. Your parents should have been better. They should have given you more attention. Our politicians should be transparent. All of these shoulds, and we get conflicted about it because they should and they didn't. And what that does, though, is it leads us to more doubt, distrust, withdrawal, playing small, grudges, living in the past, and making others in our past villains. How many of there? Just follow me so far. There is an ending. Now, we need to understand something. Unless we are in the presence of either a sociopath or a psychopath, which most of us aren't, no matter what they say out there, most people are fairly healthy people. Everyone who did not live up to our expectations were only doing the best they could with the information they had at the time. If we can just start to understand that, we can start to just shift mentally our concept of what it is to forgive. I'll give you an example. I can do this because she's no longer with us, and that's my mother. My mother, till I was about 12 years old, was not a good mama. I didn't know I was a child. It wasn't until I went into therapy for all my quirks that I realized, oh, Mom had some issues. Like she would disappear for 8 hours at a time in her room. She was incredibly depressed and didn't know how to cope with a child and then two more. She was out of her realm of comfort, and when I finally woke up to some of the issues I had been given to me by her. I made her wrong, and I made her a villain. What's so interesting is two things happened. First of all, I have grown and realized that if I had had my mother's background and then things that happened to me that had happened to her, I might have been the same. That was intellectual. I'll tell you in a minute what happened spiritually. But I will say that when she knew better, she did better. When I was in my most angry state and I recalled to her how she raised Nancy, Lisa, and Bruce and didn't raise me, she said, you know what? When I finally realized what kind of mother I was, I wanted to make up for it by being a better mother to them. When you know better, you do better. This happens to us in our own heads. How many of you know that a lot of the conflict is with yourself? That's... We can really tear ourselves apart, can't we? Especially people on a spiritual path. Because, we're awake enough to know what we want to do and what is best for us to do, and we're aware that we should be doing it, and then we know we're not. We should be forgiving and understanding and patient and not reactive, and then we are. And that can cause even more conflict. It's hard to be in heaven when you're berating yourself. Aren't you? Just the whole room is going, blah, blah. Where's the joy? Let's talk about the emotional level. Because see, all of these thoughts and these conflicts, whether it's with someone else in our history or someone else, all the way everywhere. People can trigger us. Or it's just within ourselves when we trigger ourselves by our own attitudes, our own downfalls. I don't do it so much now that I'm on Zoom. I don't know why, because I don't think I'm a better teacher. But when we used to have in-house or in the center classes, I think I don't. All I remember is almost every class I would drive home thinking of all the things that I forgot to say, should have said, could have responded differently. Was I kind enough? Was I truthful enough and saying it with love so they could get through? And which leads me to the emotional level. This is the don't worry, be happy. Love everything and everything that comes up. Ooh, embrace. Oh, what a bunch of stuff. This is just more stuff to judge ourselves on if we don't do it. I'm telling you. The path to hell is paved with platitudes. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. How many of you have noticed that feelings also seem to have a mind of their own? Be joyful, but you can't. You should be optimistic, but you can't. You should be loving, but you can't. How many of you know that you love somebody, but you just can't at this moment? In this moment, not so much. As ordinary folks on a spiritual path, we've heard about all these things. We've heard about the love and the peace and the goodwill, and we see people up there, and we listen to people who have just come back from a retreat. And we can still experience disdain, worry, and a need to appear right. Significant, spiritual. I have this little thing I want to tell you. A study was done, and it showed a study with college students. Of course, I love it because it's the professors that do these things, so of course they're going to use the guinea pigs available. So college students. And what they found is nobody cares about failing. People don't mind failing most of the time if nobody knows about it or saw it. So if you mess up, it's not a big deal unless someone's observing it. So in a class, I've got 40 people observing it, that I wasn't kind enough, gentle enough, truthful enough, explained enough. Now, this is ripe territory. When we have all these emotions, this is ripe territory for the mind to once again jump in and berate an aspect of ourselves. Doesn't this just seem like a vicious cycle? We think these things and then we feel bad, and then we feel bad, and then we think these things, and then we do blah, and then it's just like, how do you get off? Well, guess what? We're a center for spiritual living. So now we call in the big guns. I'll give you an example of what that was like before I tell you how to do it. Back to my mother. It was on a Mother's Day. Do you know, it was so hard. It was so hard to ever do a Mother's Day talk. When I was in conflict with my own mother, I didn't know what to say. It was like sawdust. And I was actually giving the talk. This is what the mind can do. I don't know about your mind can do. Well, I mean, your mind, but I'm going to say my mind. My mind can be talking, and at the same time, I will picture something else, and then something else will be going on. Just like I was singing the song about joy and then having different thoughts. So how many of you can bilocate in your own head? See, everyone can bilocate. It doesn't have to be physical. I was in two places. I was giving my Mother's Day talk. We were still in the Northgate area, in that little area that we had before we sold, and then we went to Sandpoint Way. I remember the platform. Oh, by the way, I'll tell you why I was hired. Because the ceiling was so low, it was only 8 feet. And with a platform large enough to raise up so that I could see the end of, that was longer than this room, they needed a short person. I was the shortest of the 3 candidates. Praise God. First time I've ever been grateful for being short. Right. So now back to being on that platform. You remember it, Joyce? Oh, you weren't there? Oh, God. Okay. So here I am on this platform, and I'm giving my Mother's Day talk, and I saw myself as a 19-year-old woman who got pregnant that didn't want to be pregnant by a man that didn't want her to be pregnant, and forced to get married to save face. And how after 9 months he left her because she was finally okay. And what it was like to be a single woman in a family and a culture that didn't support divorced single mothers. And how we very seldom had food, and this was before food stamps. And I thought, all of this is going on while I'm talking. And I got, shit, I'd have been depressed. And there by the grace of God, I don't go. Understanding shifted everything. But I didn't try for that. It was an insight. And harmony was reestablished between my mother and I. Forgiveness is also a technique to harmonize thoughts, feelings, and reestablish harmony in the aspect of the divine called you and me. The divine can reestablish harmony. The divine can reestablish harmony. Because I will say this over and over again, over and over again. Spirit trumps mind. Mind trumps emotions. And all of that trumps the body. Now, the body will tell you what's been going on, but when you let that spiritual aspect of yourself that's always a present really start to be active within you, you will think different thoughts. I love it. I will say this. I say this in my mystic classes all the time. It's written in the Bible that God said to one of the prophets, "Your thoughts are not my thoughts, and your ways are not my ways." So, how do we get those thoughts, and how do we get those ways? We do it moment to moment and breath to breath. See, I don't know how to not worry. How many of you have tried not to worry? It works as long as you can maybe watch a TV program, get yourself drunk, get yourself high, go shopping. You can numb out, but as soon as you stop, the worry comes back. That's why people numb out a lot. I don't know how to not criticize. I'm so good at it. I mean, if there was an Olympic sport called criticism, I would go for the gold. I don't know how to not doubt, and I don't know how to not fear. And yet we're told not to do those things. Wow, we're just setting ourselves up. Jeez. Now, we can do things, like I said, to numb ourselves out. We can also chant. I can give myself something to think about. I have a safe word I can chant, and it'll get me out of that for a while, but eventually that stuff shows up. What I wanted to ask us to do is give up the expectation that you should or could change yourself to depth. That's just so old. That's so old school. This is supposed to be a new thought. Let's have a new thought. We cannot change ourselves at depth. And yet people work so hard to do so. And so they go from one teaching, this is maybe what Linda was talking about, they go from one teaching to another teaching to another teaching, thinking that this is how they are going to change themselves at depth. You can work really hard to shift your habits, but core beliefs keep cropping up. I have 2 core beliefs, and if I'm not doing my spiritual practice, they seep in. It's just like, my old friend. The belief I'm wrong. Oh, honey, I know you. We've been such good friends for so long. Oh, and my other core belief. Oh, I'm not worthy of good stuff. Oh, here you are again. That's the, love what shows up. No, kick the hell out of. No. I have another. No, that's my new philosophy. The loving didn't work. No, that's not true either. That's just, me trying to be a spiritual comic. What I will say is that when I call forth my true self, my divine self, my eternal essence, the Christ within, whatever you want to call it, and ask to be freed of whatever is causing the conflict, the suffering, and the disharmony, something happens, and this is how I define forgiveness. Call in the big guns. Father, Mother, God within, I'm stuck here. I can't get over this. Help me. Father, Mother, God within, I'm over my head. I honestly don't know how I can bring harmony to this situation. You know, one of the things that Jesus taught was humility. And it takes real humility to recognize that we can only go so far shifting us. So forgiving, for me, is to bring that tranquility, that sense of harmony back, is to just say, Spirit, I'm yours. And what happens, and this is interesting. Remember I said that my good friends, my core beliefs show up when I'm not doing my spiritual practice. When I am doing my spiritual practice, when I'm practicing my connection with God, when I'm courting that presence, not for any reason, not to get better, not to get something. Now, the something's coming. I have a good life. But I'm not courting the presence for a good life. God is not a slot machine. I'll just keep doing this affirmation until the big payoff. Anyway, we can honestly just court the presence for the presence. And then what happens is things like my mother, me seeing my mother in a different place. There was another conflict that has happened in this church, and I'd say it was one of the biggest conflicts, and it was about 25 years ago. It was big, big, big. And I remember that being a minister and being professional, I wasn't going to defend myself, and I wasn't going to tell the other side. I was just, going to go through it very stoically. And then my mind was saying, you know what? But as soon as I retire, I will write my memoir, and it will get them, and I'll get them good. And I've been courting the presence. You know what? Two things happened. One, I did the same thing as with my mother. All of a sudden, I was that other person, and I could see how, from their point of view, everything was right, even though it wasn't in harmony with me, and there was no more conflict. Weirdest thing ever. And I keep using that. I guess I'm not even, now I wouldn't even know what to write. They say that you can forgive and not forget. No, God pretty much made me forget too. It's disappeared. All I remember is that there used to be an issue. Who knows what it is? I'd have to call them. I'm sure they'd tell me. Or maybe they've been doing their work. Our connection with God, what happens is we wake up and we go, where'd it go? Rumi said it this way, dissolver of sugar, dissolve thou me, little me, meaning things just dissolve. And Hafiz has a poem, and I didn't bring it with me because I forgot the book, but it's basically, oh, my beloved, I woke up and you took away all of my bad habits. Stuff disappears. I'd rather live that way because, frankly, I'd rather be enjoying life than working on me. I mean, maybe that's why some people disappear too, because it seems like we're not the church of the Center for Spiritual Living, we're the church of work on yourself. Oh, that sounds like fun. I mean, I've already got a part-time job and then a full-time job, and now I'm going to work on myself. Yay! So let's just try this. Just take a deep breath, my dears. And what is an area of your life that you've been suffering from? Because there's disharmony, because there's conflict. Either conflict with another, or conflict with an idea, conflict within yourself. And then what if it is just as easy as offering it up to the God within and saying, I'm over my head. I don't know how to handle this. I don't want to be in conflict anymore. And I don't know how to get out of it. But infinite intelligence does. The same intelligence that can transform my food into energy, can transform this thought into a solution. Let yourself dwell on that now. And then watch what happens. And so it is.